Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm reading page number 6, Introduction, Bhagavad Gita as it is. Just what is Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nations of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways. As Arjuna also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Sri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal. But somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring into their position. So, as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering, but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jigyasa, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the Absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering, or where they came from and where they will go after death, are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. Lord Krishna descends specifically to establish the real purpose of life when man forgets that purpose. Even then, out of many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position. And for him, this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all swallowed by the tigers of nations. But the Lord is very merciful upon the living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life, when man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. Now, page number 6, there are 4 paragraphs that I just read. The summary of these paragraphs are we are in the material world, and this is nations or darkness, the world of darkness. And at every point, we encounter misery and suffering. But a wise man is one who can rise above the misery and question his existence. See, as soul, we are Sat Chit Anand. We are blissful, we are eternal, and we are full of knowledge. That is the meaning of Sat Chit Anand. And as pure souls, we are all full of bliss. And what is the reason that we are suffering in this material world? That is because we don't belong here. We belong to the spiritual world. But because of our ignorance and wrong choices that we made, we find ourselves in the material world. And the material world is impermanent. Krishna explains in the later chapters, we will see that Krishna explains the material world as Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. It is full of misery and it's impermanent. Two terms to describe the material world. So we don't belong here. We are suffering and we are miserable because we find ourselves in a wrong place. So a wise human being is one who recognizes this basic fact and then he inquires. He asks questions. That is the beginning of knowledge. You see, every day in the news we find cases where people make wrong choices. People who have everything, wealth, youth, family, love, fame, success, but they commit suicide. Why is it so? Because in a moment of weakness, we feel that everything that we've been chasing is all illusion. Nothing makes sense. Everything seems so superficial and fickle. So there are two choices at that time that you can make. Either you can end your life, which is not a solution, you come back again, or you can inquire about the truth of life. What is the purpose of life? Why am I here? And that here in the second paragraph, Prabhupada says that is Brahma Jigyasa. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. That is now you are on the path of inquiry. And then from there, you understand your purpose in life and you understand your position, your constitutional position in relation to the Lord. Another point that's mentioned here is Arjuna is the eternal associate of Lord. You know, when the Lord incarnated as Nara Narayana, he was with Arjuna as a twin brother. So Arjuna is way beyond ignorance. He is he's an eternal associate of the Lord, and he knows his position, and he is not like us. He's not bewildered. However, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, we will find that Arjuna is bewildered. And why is that so? Because that's Lord's Maya. Lord has put Arjuna in bewilderment so that we fallen souls can learn our lessons hearing their conversation. We are listening, we are eavesdropping to the conversation between two friends, and from that conversation, there are so many gems of wisdom that we can learn. And so Arjuna was put into bewilderment by Krishna purposely so that we may learn something from their conversation. So don't think that Arjuna was actually, having a nervous breakdown. No, but Lord used him as a means of spreading the wisdom of Gita. That's a secret. Now I will move on to verse number 11 and 12. In the previous episode, we have done up to 10, verse number 10. Now we do 11 and 12. So in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, अन्येषु च सर्वेषु यथा भागम् अवस्थिता भीष्मम् एवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance to the phalanx of the enemy. Duryodhana is continuing his pep talk to his army, and he is saying that all of you should now protect Bhishma because he is the most powerful warrior on the Kuru Kaurava side. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Duryodhana, after praising the prowess of Bhishma, further considered that others might think that they had been considered less important. So, in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was also an old man, so everyone must especially think of his protection from all sides. He might become engaged in the fight, and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it was important that other heroes do not leave their strategic positions and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depended on the presence of Bhishma Deva. He was confident of the full support of Bhishma Deva and Dronacharya in the battle because he well knew that they did not even speak a word when Arjuna's wife Draupadi, in her helpless condition, had appealed to them for justice while she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of all the great generals in the assembly. Although he knew that the two generals had some sort of affection for the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up, as they had done during the gambling performance. Duryodhana is boosting the morale of his army, and he is asking his uh, team, his soldiers and his generals to guard Bhishma Deva. As here Prabhupada has mentioned, Bhishma Deva is the most important warrior on their side, so he has to be guarded at any cost. Verse number 12. तस्य सञ्जनयन् हर्षं कुरु वृद्ध पितामहः सिंहनादं विनद्योच्चै शङ्खं दद्मौ प्रतापवान्. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandchild of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like a roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. Purport. The grandchild of the Kuru dynasty could understand the inner meaning of the heart of his grandson Duryodhana, and out of his natural compassion for him, he tried to cheer him by blowing his conch shell very loudly, befitting his position as a lion. Indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed his depressed grandson Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle because the Supreme Lord Krishna was on the other side. But still, it was his duty to conduct the fight, and no pains would be spared in that connection. So here, this is the 12th verse, and now Bhishma Deva has blown his conch shell, which marks the beginning of the war. Duryodhana has been talking for a while now, giving pep talks and this and that. So Bhishma understood the state of mind of Duryodhana, and he, in order to cheer his grandson, he blows his conch shell very loudly, like a roar of a lion, in a way trying to boost Duryodhana's morale. This is not a time for talk. You know, in a way, Bhishma Deva was saying that this is not a time for talk. Bhishma Deva's conch shell blowing also signifies, in a way, that he's indirectly telling Duryodhana that his side does not have a chance because Krishna is on the other side. So instead of just talking, Bhishma Deva blew his conch shell. And that was the verse number 12, and that in the next episode we will see that what happens after this. This is the first chapter, Observing the Armies, Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's interesting to note that the first chapter is named as Observing the Armies. Why do you think this is the title of the chapter? Because if you see the other publications of Gita, the first chapter has a different name. Some publications call it Arjun Vishad Yoga and by other names, but Prabhupada chose the word observing the armies. And it's important to understand what is the significance of the word observing, because how you observe life determines what you make of it. You can look at a glass as half empty or as half full. It's your observation. What you observe, how you observe, it influences how you think. And how you think influences how you act. And how you act influences how you live your life. So, observation is very important, how you observe. So, that is why this first chapter is named as Observing the Army. So, that's today's video of Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. I hope that you liked the video and you benefited somewhat from it. If you like it, please give us a thumbs up and feel free to share it. And remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you will know when the next video is posted. See you next time. Many thanks for watching. Hare Krishna.